Nerdrotic.com.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Nerdrotic Nooner. My name is Gary Beekler and I come to you from Nerdrotic.com, currently in San Diego, California, or well, actually San Diego County, California. And it's time to talk about a little news. My God, it's been so long since we talked about Disney effing Star Wars. I'm so excited about this topic. Now up front, Disney Star Wars to me is a dead brand. It is a dead meme. It's a lame brand. And I think the best we'll get is whatever Jon Favreau can get away with in his series that's going to muck around in between what was the greatest trilogy, one of the greatest trilogies ever made, in my opinion, not the greatest trilogy ever made because that's Lord of the Rings, and one of the worst. And it's not going to change anything from one of the worst. There's been lots of scuttlebutt, lots of talk about how Disney can fix things. They don't want to. They're taking it. They don't have to right now. They have plenty of time to figure out what they're going to do later. I think they're going to spend a good 5 years just focusing on whatever Favreau is going to do. And quite frankly, I'll probably miss it because I don't care, because I just don't care. But there's some leaks. That's leaks. And the reason we're going to talk about leaks is because that's all Disney Star Wars has. There's a reason people are getting very excited about these leaks and these rumors, because they're all better than what we have gotten on the screen. Does that sound familiar, Marvel? And quite frankly, it's because the fans know the franchise better than Disney does to this day. Better than a story group, better than Kathleen Kennedy. In these leaks, they try to cover Kathleen Kennedy's ass a little bit. Jar Jar Abrams, you know how I feel about Jar Jar. He's the destroyer of franchises. He's the Teflon man. Nothing sticks to this guy at all. And he is able to monetize his failures time and time again, because when they eventually fail, he's not involved anymore. You know, he's gone. I wasn't involved in Lost. That was Lindelof and everyone else. That wasn't me. I didn't. Rian Johnson screwed up Star Wars. I tried to fix it best I can. It's not like, I gave him much of a plan and I just remade the fourth movie in the laziest way possible and made it up as we went along because we didn't have a plan. But it wasn't me. It wasn't me. The Me Too Time's Up era flipped Hollywood on its end, and they were able to politicize and monetize a genuine movement of women actually being abused to gain power. But that was his wife. That wasn't JJ. That wasn't JJ. Yeah. And what has he done? At the time, in 2009, the Star Trek movie was okay. But we saw where that led. That okay led to now over 10 years of just garbage Star Trek. And now there's rumors of a 4-hour Jar Jar cut. I could not think of anything I would rather miss. We're not going to see it. We're not going to see it. That's just my opinion. I have no insider knowledge on any of this stuff. I know a lot of people really still want Star Wars to turn around, and I hope it does too for whoever wants to watch it. Beyond that, it's just old and it's tired, I think. That's the way I feel about it anyway. We have an update of sorts from Mr. George R.R. Martin, and I am not going to go after him like I normally do. And this one, I'm going to offer him some constructive criticism. And we're going to go over his blog post and what he said and what he didn't say, and reading between the lines. He did say there's a book coming out. It's just not, spoilers. It's not When's a Winner. It's not When's a Winner. Then we have a little bit left over from yesterday John Cleese roasted the Apu apology from Hank Azaria, and I thought it was funny. I thought it was very, very funny. But first, let's see who's here, shall we? Let's see. I'm doing this through StreamYard, so it doesn't die on me. I'm still waiting on my new computer. There's something going on. This could die. I have no idea. But it seems like I did a big test on StreamYards, and we were live yesterday on the real BBC and didn't have any problems. So I think it'll be fine for now. So we got Radicalized Ryan, Walter Snyder, Geek Tripology, Alien Ogre, Culture Casino. How are you, my friend? Davo19, Jurassic Fantastic, Tyler Rude, Just Another Red Shirt Bastard, Eric K, All Wrenches, CJ Don M, Mick Bright, Projects Done Poorly. Thank you for the super chat. We'll get right to you. What's up, Russell? How do I say your last name? Is it Lechard? I'm going to say it's Lechard. It sounds very French. I don't know. Look at those emojis. I want to thank there's two people. Well, there's three people who have been behind the scenes. No, there's four people who have been behind the scenes doing incredible hard work. First foremost, the lovely and talented Mrs. Nerdrotic has been busting her ass behind the scenes, and that's in between doing her job, and in between looking for a house, in between moving from the older house. So F's in the chat for Mrs. Nerdrotic, because she is the best wife ever. She is currently driving up to San Francisco. She might be listening, so drive safe, babe. I love you. And then we have X-Ray Girl, Krista Nova, who's been doing some stuff. Thank you both for kicking ass. And of course, Perry effing Chan. So thank you all. And, Eric K has been helping out too. So yeah, we're getting things together, getting caught up after the vacation. Yes, I'm going to make a couple of videos. Actually, you're going to probably get a lot over the next few days, because you haven't. It seems like the YouTube algorithm thing might be working itself out. At least I want to, another person I need to thank is Jeremy from the Quartering. Jeremy from the Quartering gets a lot of criticism, and I can tell you right now, every experience I've had with the guy, he's a cool dude. He's willing to help out other YouTubers when he can. He's incredibly busy. He's got multiple channels, but he always gets right back to me when I DM him. I was talking to him about the algorithm stuff, and he said, yeah, it was kind of happening to him too. And then he made a video yesterday, and the thumbnail is hilarious. So thanks to Jeremy from the Quartering, and YouTube finally responded to what was going on. They finally acknowledged that there was a problem and that they're working on it. And that's all we ever ask. Some communication. Apparently it affected Philip DeFranco, so maybe something will get done now when it starts affecting bigger YouTubers like that. But my main concern is what I was hearing from when I would post it was for the up and coming channels. The up and coming channels were getting incredibly frustrated because not only were their views disappearing and their likes and dislikes disappearing, their watch hours were disappearing, which I don't know what the hell's going on. And that means a lot to a channel that's like this close to 1,000 or has just passed 1,000 subscribers, and they're about to get monetized, and they need a certain amount of watch hours, and to see that go away must be incredibly frustrating. So we're always looking out for them. Right. All right. So welcome. Earth is oh my God. There's an account that says Earth is seriously flat. No. Lord Thoth, what's up? Stephen W, what's up? Old Star Wars nerd, what's up? I'm a small channel. I felt every like removed, he says, or she says, sorry. Yeah, up and coming channel is what we it's John Cleese, right? Yes, John Cleese. I always say, when I say John Cleese, I always say John Cleese. I've been saying that for 40 years. But it's probably John Cleese. Freaking he was hilarious yesterday. He was on point. And I think we should all kind of adopt what he does, because I think he's hit that point. I think he's 80 or something. When there's a point when human beings get to a certain age and they just really stop giving a fuck. I think we should just all do that now. I think we should all do that now. Yeah, and I'm not going to get into that Earth debate. No, it's ridiculous. I think it was just a troll account anyway, or they're just trying to be funny, which is fine. Be funny all you want. All right, let's start with because I'm not gonna go over this whole thing. I am not going over this whole thing. We're just gonna kind of skim it a little bit, and I'll give you my thoughts on why the leaks are really the most popular thing in the Star Wars fandom right now. And this is from Reddit, and Ryan Kinnell did a live stream on this a couple of days ago. Baby boy Ryan Kinnell, and I think Drunk did a video on this, and they went over it thoroughly. Maybe Star Wars Girl, I think she did something on this too, and it looks like it's there was a leak like this right after the film came out, I believe, that looked like it was trying to cover Jar Jar's ass, and I think this is the same thing. I think it's very likely that this was just a fan posting this, but it could be somebody who worked. I have no idea. It could be somebody, making this shit up. That's why I don't really report on this stuff very much. Now there were, Jedi Praxis, right? Was it Jedi Praxis? Was that his name? Those leaks were pretty much spot on. And if you remember to the Game of Thrones days, because I used to be a frequent visitor to the Free Folk Reddit, which was one of the best Reddits I've ever been to. It was fun. It was a fun place. It wasn't very politically correct, and that's why I liked it. Then they kind of bent the knee. Then they kind of came back, especially towards the end. At the end of Game of Thrones season 8, they kind of found their voice again, and they were great. But the lot of the spoilers there were spot on as well. So it's hit and miss like everything else. And a source of most of the leaks that you've heard are Mike Zero's hard drive, his infamous hard drive that he found, or thumbnail, and of course 4chan and Reddit. So this guy says, or gal, and I don't know who it is, I don't care. It says, what happened with Disney sequel trilogy and the changes to episode 9? I worked on the sequel trilogy for its entire run, from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi and the Fall of Skywalker. The world has changed as my position in the roots of this tree. In the next coming days, weeks, months, there will be several leaks due to shakeups at Lucasfilm. Leaks have become a part of the culture of the company. I wanted to set some matters straight before that occurred. Who am I? Does it matter? Well, yeah, it kind of does. There's nothing I could provide to convince everyone who I was without doxing myself, something I'm not particularly open to doing. Take this as gospel or with a grain of salt. Well, I'll take it with a giant grain of salt. How's that sound? Regarding Lucasfilm, there has never been a cultural civil war at Lucasfilm. I completely agree with that, although again, I don't know because I'm not there. I just judge by what they provide us, what they say publicly. I'm sure there's the normal corporate political battles within the corporate entity, because that happens everywhere, typical work drama, but I don't think there's a civil war, a cultural civil war there. I don't think the people who would be on the other side of political correctness feel free to speak freely. I highly doubt that. So there's probably people working there who may be on the other side of the aisle from Kathleen Kennedy, but they do not voice that if they want to keep their job. Nevertheless, a disagreement on what direction to take the franchise has always been a recurring problem, and I'm sure it has. Certain members of the Lucasfilm story group, Pablo, desire to see Star Wars resemble a D&D campaign, more aesthetic, less narrative. Others, Favreau and Filoni, are pushed for more traditional approach. There isn't some war between Kathy and Favreau. They are on rather pleasant terms. Kathy seems to want him to take over once she retires, is promoted. Favreau may or may not take the position. Filoni isn't interested, nor is he even remotely qualified to run a film studio. He's much happier working on his own stories. Yep. And I would say Favreau is the same. And that's just my opinion. I think Favreau is a writer-director, and he wants to create film. I don't think he wants to facilitate, which is all Kathleen Kennedy does. She doesn't have a creative bone in her body. But, from her past work prior to Lucasfilm, supposedly she was a very good producer. Each sequel trilogy director prioritized their scripts differently. Johnson was intoxicated with the themes. Trevorrow had been infatuated with the spectacle, and Abrams favored the concepts. Abrams favors anything Abrams produces. As to be expected, this led to a very different approach to the sequels. Some Lucasfilm fancied, others not so much. Ray being the biggest disagreement. Abrams initially had hoped to work with George. That didn't work out. When George walked, Jar Jar had almost attempted the same. Iger stopped him. Now, I know there's still rumors out there of a George Lucas cut. Now, I don't know if that's... So is there a George Lucas edit of the entire film where he sat in an editing room and cut that thing for how long while he was raising his new young child while he lived in Chicago? I don't think that's likely. I don't think there is a George Lucas cut. They might have called him and he might have made some suggestions. Sure. But him in the editing room at his age with a new kid with billions of dollars. By the way, I did a video a couple of weeks ago showing how much money he has made off of Star Wars since he sold it. It's doubled. It's doubled. He is a multi-billionaire. George doesn't have to do crap. I'm sure he cares about his legacy, but he cares about as much. Yeah, he's like, God, that really bothers me, but God, to do something, I have to actually get up out of my chair. No, thanks. No, thanks. Lucasfilm saw the sequels as a departure from the old way into the new era. Initially, they had fuddled around with Rey. Yeah, we know all this shit. Abrams would eventually ask to set up the romance. So here are some changes, I guess. There's a 4-hour cut out there, basically. And in this 4-hour cut, Abrams would eventually ask to set up a romance between Poe and Finn when Disney requested him not to go forward with Finn and Rey, which had been refused as well. Lucasfilm asked Abrams to set up a romance between Poe and Rey. Abrams refused. To sum it up, Abrams was not on the same page. Rian was far more helpful with Lucasfilm. Yeah, we know that. Stories were always being changed. We know that. They didn't really have a plan. Poe was going to be made the leader of the resistance, while Hux would have made Grand Marshal of the First Order as Kylo's right-hand man. Kylo would have sought to reform the galaxy, but found peace in the end and passed on. The story was scrapped before, during principal photography. Some stayed, some changed during the film. All right. Oh, I wanted to get down where they were talking about Matt Smith. Okay, here we go. Is there a JJ cut? Still perplexed on why everyone is calling it a JJ cut. Who cares? The answer is yes and no. Of course it is. Of course it is. There is an assembly cut of what Abrams filmed before reshoots took place. Man, this is sounding familiar. I can't place where this where I've heard this before. Here, I'm sorry. Let's do that. I can't place where I've heard this before. It's almost like somebody saw the response from the Snyder Cut. And believe me, this is a repeat of what we saw last time when the Snyder Cut was, when they admitted the Snyder Cut existed. A leak like this came out right afterwards. I smell some bullshit. Just saying. So there is an assembly cut, just like there was an assembly cut of the Snyder Cut. It resembles his original vision. It needs some work and likely some reshoots. Only a lunatic would attempt to fund it, though. Is there a Lucas cut? No. Abrams had gone to Lucas like he had gone all over to other directors and got their input. That's it. Lucas did not ghost direct 9. He gave his input on the initial script Abrams and Terrio worked on. Difference between the theatrical and Abrams cut on The Rise of Skywalker, or The Fall of Skywalker, like I like to say. Matt Smith, for one, the runtime would be close to 4 hours. Oh. Palpatine role constantly changed from dark spirit to possession to eventually rescued zombie clone. Original role was just a cameo for the fans. And Rey's parents had been Luke and a Force archaeologist who found Anakin's lightsaber after the events of the original trilogy, but before Star Wars. We never learned her name in the story. Kylo and Rey's relationship was more tragic. Rey wanting to put him out of his misery and Kylo wanting to be free. Well, put the audience out of their misery and like never talk about this stuff again. There was a scene of Kylo saying goodbye to Leia. By the way, giving closure to the mother's son. Jannah had been Finn's sister. Much of Rose's subplot was dedicated to figuring out how to outsmart the First Order. Rose and Jannah had a third act subplot of converting the jammer into the beacon to alert the galaxy for the final battle. They become close. Pride originally sold out the First Order to the Resistance. Coruscant was a key world for conflict between the First Order and Resistance. Several flashbacks to Luke's life before the sequels. Luke had been looking for Mortis through Ahch-Chu. Luke and Kylo would have a proper duel on Mortis. The scene was based off their confrontation. Doesn't this sound like this is? I think there's Trevorrow stuff in here. That's just. There were hints of Poe's romantic interest in Finn, yet in the end, he gives his blessings to Finn and Rey. Poe would end up convincing bounty hunter Zori to aid the fight with her fellow bounty hunters and her Get Anywhere badge to become mutually interested in one another. Final battle for the Resistance takes place over a giant docking bay with the First Order fleet on Coruscant. Finn leads the assault to the beacon. Oh my God, I'm just bored hearing this. Who cares? Who gives a shit? The Sith troopers were actually clone mixes with Phasma's DNA. So did they just like run into each other and jump off buildings and kill themselves? Because that would explain a lot, actually. Finn leads a stormtrooper rebellion of normal stormtroopers versus Sith. This would have to be 16 hours long. Oh, no, come on. It's JJ. Rey offers Kylo her hand for redemption, a parallel contrast. Oh, my God. I'm just bored reading this shit. Knights of Ren will be killed again. Ben would have appeared as a Force ghost. Anakin's Force ghost would have appeared with the young. Why? Why would Anakin show up? Well, why did the Emperor show up? That's okay. Touche. The Resistance Gang would celebrate on Tatooine at the Lars homestead. Why? I mean, I know why for visual purposes, but like story purposes. That's like me and my friends deciding to party at my grandma's house in La Jolla, you know, that she doesn't live in anymore because she's dead and my mom doesn't own anymore. Is the Abrams cut better? It's more coherent story than the theatrical release. But have you seen it? Has this person seen it? But it also filled with a lot of Abrams quality writing. Well, putting Abrams quality and writing next to each other is laughable. If you don't like J.J. Abrams films, this won't make you a fan of J.J. Abrams. Wow, where have I heard this before? If you don't like Zack Snyder films, you're not going to like this. It's going to be more Abrams. It's going to be more Zack Snyder. I mean, come on, people. Am I taking crazy pills? Will Abrams' cut ever actually get released? Oh, God, I hope so. I hope so. Not sure. Heard some talks about it, but Bob Chapstick has had his hand TM drunk 3PO full of his hands full, and he is rather cheap. And yes, we have heard. The first I heard of Bob Chapek was through Clownfish TV when they were talking about him as far as the parks were concerned, and they said he was cheap then, and that was 2 years ago. I also don't see a high fan campaign for this ever happening like the Snyder cut. I don't either, because everybody fucking hated this. The one thing this film did was unite some of the fandom. Personally, I favor Collins ending. Yeah, the Trevorrow one, what I remember of it was better poop. It's like a better poop. It's like having a better dump, you know? You got to kind of look at Star Wars like this. And I know many have said it. I've read and especially mainly in the comics. As far as the EU, I don't have this vast encyclopedic knowledge of the EU. I have just read a few comic books here and there and a couple of books here and there, and I liked it. And as far as I was under the impression it was all canon until Disney erased it as canon, right? So it was all part of the story, despite some contradictions here and there. It was all part of the story. We're going to talk about headcanon in a minute with Game of Thrones. So if you want to be a Star Wars fan, there's tons of EU books that you can dive into that will probably take you years to get through. If you want to still be a fan, you could probably find them at used bookstores for cheap without giving Disney any money. But as far as George Lucas's Star Wars, you're never going to see that again. It was a very unique thing, and it was that because it had George. You can't run these things by committee anymore. You just can't. The brand is getting diluted. The once greatest brand in the world is now comic books, and they're just redoing the EU in the worst possible way. The Disney trilogy was a disaster. There is no fixing it. They will not erase it. And did we forget the firing of Gina Carano? Is this something we forgot? Now it's your choice. If you want to continue to enjoy Disney Star Wars, by all means, and I hope it's good for you. I hope, my hope has always been that the Star Wars fans get the respect they deserve. They have been loyal. They have made this the greatest franchise in the world, and they have been just slapped around and beaten down. And and Disney doesn't know what they're doing. And we had the closure of the ArcLight theaters. I think the Cinerama Dome might be saved. God, I hope it is, because it was awesome. But despite Kong being successful, those theaters going out of business was a very, very bad sign of things to come. And Kong might be a little too late, which is too bad. Because those were the bougie theaters, right? And those are the signs of a good economy. Obviously, the first things to go. We also have the Alamo Drafthouse, which is filed for Chapter 11. Hopefully, it survives, because I love it. It's a good theater, and I want theaters to survive. But for this franchise to survive, it needs billion-dollar movies. It can't just roll out streaming series, because what we're finding out is something like The Mandalorian, as average as I thought it was. I think it was a very average series that had some great moments and some horrible writing, but a lot of people enjoyed it, and it was a massive hit. But the stuff following, especially for Marvel on Disney Plus, hasn't been. And by the way, all the news out there of, hey, WandaVision was a success, according to Disney. Falcon and Winter Soldier, second most watched, according to Disney. Bullshit. I question all of it. And until Disney shares their actual data, the Nielsen's don't know. Nobody knows. You can tell there are little signs out there. What you want to do is you go look at interaction on Twitter. But more importantly, you go on YouTube as well, and you mix that interaction. It takes time, but I still think the best way to figure out if something is popular or not is look at reviews. And you want to look at reviews from up and coming channels to big channels, and just look and see how those reviews perform against their average views. And you could see, like, it was really obvious Game of Thrones was very popular for a long time, and a lot of people were killing it on that. I would say WandaVision had people intrigued. It definitely did, especially the Evan Peters cameo was popular. I think it had a lot of people, but then they did nothing with it, and it slowly faded. And then that last episode came out, and it sucked. Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think what hurt that in the beginning wasn't the fact that it's woke, and you cannot even criticize it right now, which is something, it's not in the title, but we'll talk about why you cannot criticize the Falcon and Winter Soldier. But it was boring. It was boring in the beginning. That was my biggest criticism of it. And now the writing is just nonsense, and the show is a mess. And again, just like with WandaVision, you're wasting good performances by good actors, but it's all part of the same party, and these things are not as successful as The Mandalorian. And Disney needs everything to be a hit, because these streaming wars, Hollywood is in a major pickle right now, as you know. They're not able to write as many stories as they were before. There used to be an infinite number of stories that they could write, but they have put so many rules on themselves that there's very limited amount of storytelling they can tell, and it is destroying genre, destroying it. But as far as these leaks, I understand why you're excited, because you want to love Star Wars, and I hope you do, and I hope you get what you wanted. I want you to be happy, Star Wars fans. I am done, and I don't care, and it sucks. It sucks that I was a fan of this thing for the longest time, but I don't choose to. I'm like, there's a point where you're like, I got to be done now. I got to be done. I'll report on when Kathleen Kennedy's fired. If something is successful and good, I'll report on it. But I'm not going to give them any money. There's no way I'm going to give them any money. Not after the Gina Carano firing was worse than The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was disrespect to Luke, disrespect to the fandom. the Gina Carano firing was pure disrespect to the fandom, because it wasn't just Gina, it was everybody she supported. They said that about you. If you supported Gina Carano, that's how they feel about you, and they don't want you around. Sure, if you're dumb enough, and this is their thoughts, if you're dumb enough to give them your money, they'll take it. Sure, but they're not going to change. And it's very much reflective of the attitude of the Marvel creatives out there who all work for Disney. But no, they don't like a large portion of their audience, which is, it's unbelievable, but it's true. It's absolutely true. So yeah, the Star Wars leaks is all they have because you guys are optimistic. Fans are optimistic. They want to have fun. They want to enjoy their escapism. Again, Bill Maher came out. Maybe I can probably get away with playing this. Right. I'm going to play a little bit of what he said a couple of days ago about the Oscars. Okay. Let me cue it up here. And it's not anything new, by the way. All right. Give me just a moment. Using StreamYards today. All right. We're just going to listen to little bits of this. Hopefully, I won't get in trouble.
New rule, the Oscars need to change their name to the Debbies, as in Debbie Downer. Because judging by this year's Best Picture nominees, you couldn't have a worse time at the movies if there was an active shooter in the theater.
Oof. Oof. So he goes over the Oscars a little bit and how they're all, just basically they're all virtue signals. And that's the term he uses.
The 2021 Oscars brought to you by razor blades, Kleenex, and rope.
That was kind of funny.
Please welcome our host, the sad emoji. Look, I don't have to leave the theater whistling. But would it kill you once in a while to make a movie that doesn't make me want to take a bath with the toaster? We all had a rough year. A little escapism would have been appreciated.
A little escapism would have been appreciated the year before that. And the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. Did I get to 2016 yet? I'll do one more. And the year before that. But it was the Bill Mahers. That's why I call him, that's why I said file this under shit. We've been saying for years, Bill Maher is still a tired Hollywood elite a-hole. Yeah, the Bill Mahers, the mainstream media, were leaning very hard into dividing this country. And it became a cultural push through all forms of entertainment, including the news.
But your list.
Oh, Bill, you're so smart, Bill. You're the first person to come up with that. I can do that too. Thank you. I'd say mine's a little bit more genuine than that was.
But your list of movies, it's like the menu at some stupid trendy restaurant where all the choices are very impressive, but there's not one thing I actually want to eat. Where's the comfort food? What happened to show business? Did they all decide to quit cocaine at the same time?
That's something I've said too. And I completely agree.
Did they forget? Did they forget that Hollywood is still the #1 place to go if you're an egomaniac looking to fill that hole from your childhood with applause?
I appreciate that honesty.
At least that's what my therapist says to me. I don't know. They forgot how to help people escape from their problems, and then they wonder why they're losing their audience in droves. Of course. You keep offering up the immigrant who shit in a coffee can and
audience leaving in droves. So it's finally being acknowledged. Remember, for the longest time, we were full of shit. We didn't know what we were talking about. It's not like we're not on the ground floor of fandom here, because I'm a fan. You're a fan. I hear what you guys say every day. And it's not all the same thing, by the way. I hear very different points of view on this. But I think we can all agree escapism has seen better days.
at some point the crowd is going to go, oh, fuck it. Just give me the Netflix movie of Motley Crue taking drugs and getting blown.
Yeah. Hell, what's wrong with that? I'd rather watch that than, well, most anything.
Academy nominations used to say, look what great movies we make. Now they say, look what good people we are. It's not about entertainment. It's about suffering, specifically yours. It's not 2 hours to forget your troubles. It's traffic school at the Holocaust Museum. In 2021...
Oh, I guess it's okay if he makes that a joke, an analogy like that.
If you're at the movies and wondering,
personally, I think it is.
Which one is the bad guy? It's you.
That's a good pause face right there. You think we should just leave it right there for a second? I got to make this transformative. Yeah, once in a while, Bill Maher can make sense. Again, not a fan, and this is more than just the Oscars. All right, I could give two fucks about the Oscars, and I don't think anybody else can. But the Oscars have become a giant virtue signal, and Hollywood has become a giant virtue signal. Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, giant virtue signals. That's all they are. That's all they are. And they stopped being what they were, which was escapism. And Doctor Who is gonna double down in Series 13. Star Trek looks like it's already quadrupling down, and that's why nobody cares. That's why nobody gives a shit right now. And CBS Viacom stock, last time I checked, $37 a share. It was at $100 a couple of weeks ago.
Because you have indoor plumbing and the nominees don't. This is one reason why Godzilla vs. Kong stomped the box office last weekend and finally got people back to theaters, because it's Godzilla vs. Kong, not Godzilla vs. Kong and his crippling battle with depression. Jesus, is there no... Hollywood used to know. They used to know how to make a movie that was about something.
And it can't anymore. And it can't anymore. And you want to know why? It can't. The corporations. It's now being... There used to be a guy with a cigar, a studio head who diddled a lot of people. But there used to be a strong voice, a clear leader. Now we have multiple CEOs in a boardroom that everything has to get past before it even gets to the multiple creators, which there's now 10 times more of. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen how much movie sets have grown over the years. There used to be, 20 people around. Now there's hundreds. And it just makes it diluted and impossible. And when something like the Joker happens, which the miracle of the Joker was, it was an old school film. It was a 70s film made in the current era. And it was just a remake, but people were blown away by it. And I was too. I loved it because it was such a throwback.
You know, the part of the Oscar show where you got up and went to the bathroom. But that's the whole show now. They don't even have a host anymore. The funniest part of the whole night is the in memoriam segment. Quirk. I keep asking myself, why do so many liberals have this seeming desire to want to be sad? Could it be because being sad allows you to feel like you're doing something about a problem without actually having to do anything?
That's a lot of people.
Like
including Bill Maher.
The poor lady living in her van. There is a solution to homelessness. Building affordable housing.
Oh boy, I don't want to hear all your solutions. But let's build all this
home
stuff.
Values. In all honesty, I gotta ask, if your movie is so woke, how come I'm falling asleep? All right, that's our.
There we go. So Bill Maher basically was whining about the loss of escapism, and so we've been talking about it for a long time, but now it's affecting them monetarily without a certain thing to complain about. They're starting to look inward, right? As we all predicted they would do. They're starting to look inward, and they're starting to see that there are some major problems, and it wasn't just all that one thing they were complaining about for 4 years. Some of them probably are looking in the mirror and taking a little bit of responsibility, but not many. Don't worry, not many. Not going to happen. So all we have is hope. And a very wise person said, hope is not a strategy. Hoping Star Wars is going to turn around. But if you've got the time and the effort and the money, by all means, do it. Chances are that will just lead to more bad Star Wars, though. I mean, just so you know. But I hope I'm wrong. And I'm not here, like, again, I'm here for the fans. You be a fan of whatever you like. I'm just telling you what I think and what I am going to do. I figure that the best way for Star Wars to change is to starve it of finances. And that will get your change immediately. Continuing to subscribe to them, and what are they doing right now? What's with the action figures? They're breaking out a bunch of classic action figures. I'm sure they look good, but that just finances the next Kathleen Kennedy project. As far as Jon Favreau taking over again, I don't think he's going to take over. I don't think there's a Lucas cut. I don't think there's a Jar Jar cut. I think these are just a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands, or people who like to have a good laugh. We know that people put fake shit on Reddit all the time, and we know sometimes there's some legitimate stuff up there. And it's up to you to go through it. And like, again, if a channel wants to talk about it, by all means, talk about it. If you guys want to discuss it, if it helps pass the time, puts a smile on your face, by all means, do it. But I don't think there's any hope for Star Wars. You can bring back, Sebastian Stan. The more I see him, the more I'm convinced he could probably pull off a Luke Skywalker, but then he's not Luke Skywalker. Okay. Luke Skywalker is not a role that can be passed down to anyone else. You'll still be Sebastian Stan playing kind of a version of Luke Skywalker, but it's always going to be Mark Hamill. That's how it started. Now, if Luke Skywalker had started out as a comic book character, it might be different. You can recast the role. But as we saw with Star Trek, you can't just replace William Shatner. Christopher Pine was a very popular Kirk, but nobody took him as the real Kirk. Like, he's not Kirk. And one of the biggest problems that we've already gone through with recasting iconic characters is these actors will get famous in these roles and then want to go do other things. When, with Star Trek, if you're going to recast the roles of Kirk, Spock, you needed to do it with unknowns. You need to lock them into a contract where they'd be willing to be around for a long time. What made Star Trek so healthy and such a much bigger franchise it was the original trilogy, and it was the movies and Next Generation, both being extremely successful, hit and miss once in a while, but successful. And, it was a huge part of the 80s was Star Trek. You had a movie, you had a show, there was always Star Trek around. It felt very comforting. Hasn't been around for a long, long time. So, you can't just I'm sure it might be entertaining, but it's just not going to be Luke. Deep down inside, you'll know it won't be Luke. Will Disney eventually remake the original trilogy? Hell yes. I am absolutely convinced of that. I think they'll retcon everything eventually. Not just the Disney trilogy, everything. All right, we got some super chat. Oh, why did you? Oh, hang on. Still weirdness going on with YouTube, so I need to go over here. That's the best place to go. Okay. See the chat too. This is one of the few times I can see the chat. All right. Neil Oakley for £5. Bad place analogies. Okay for Bill. What the fuck? Oh, it's okay for everybody except for Gina. Neil, it's okay for everyone except for Gina. And he even got a couple chuckles, and it's okay. I think it is okay. I think it's okay for everyone, because it's just an analogy. That's all it is. It's just words. Words are wind. M Tax Shark for $5. Bill Maher simply proves that he and others are watching outlets like yours and others and see the trend against them. They do, because trends start with fans, with us. I hate to use this term, but trends are bottom up. They start with the fans. And they catch on with the fans, and then Hollywood eventually catches on and burns that trend out. That's where trends go to die. But they're seeing it. They're seeing the change, and it's been going on for a long time. But remember, the infiltration of Hollywood and comics and everything, that was going on for a long time too. Bill Maher exemplifies the broken clock theory and a case of too little too late. Meanwhile, God bless John Cleese. Yes. Thank you, Douglas Nilsson, which we will get to for $5. Yes. Furious Zap for £10. Sharon Carter will be the power broker, but will still be working for CIA because America bad. I completely agree with you, Furious Zap, and I guess we're going to find out next episode. And I've been holding off on talking about Falcon Winter Soldier because I'm going to go over all of this in a video that may be an unpopular opinion. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Because you can't criticize that show because Wakanda forever. And personally, my criticisms of the show have absolutely nothing, and I mean zero, to do with race. Nothing. It is bad writing and intersectional feminism. Sharon Carter will be the power broker. Oh, but okay, duh. Did Bill Maher steal your material, Gary? Barvello 26 for $5. I'll say our material. Dad Man Walking 55 for $4.99. Here, take my money. Hard working creators like you deserve it more than the mouse. I invested time and money in the EU, all moot due to where Luke, Han, and now. Yeah, God dang, that must be frustrating. But the thing is, it's still all good for you. It's just the story ended. The story ended with the original trilogy. That's all you got to do. Episode 6 was it, and you're fine. You're fine. But you're never going to get it again. And boy, we all thought Disney would be the place to go. I did. Maybe some of you knew. I thought it would be the place to go. Did you see Yellow Flash reporting BBC doesn't think Idris Elba is black enough for his Luther series? My God, BBC has lost their minds completely. Chris Rapasso for 5 Canadian pesos. No, I didn't. I'll look into that though. What? You got to be kidding me. Red Lion for 10 Australian dollars. The only Star Wars news I got excited for recently was that John Wayne voiced the spy in A New Hope. Hail the Duke and hail Nerdrotic. Huh? I didn't know that. The spy at Mos Eisley? I didn't know that. Trent Johnson for $5. Even if Disney were to sell the Star Wars IP, what studio or company would you trust to take over and actually respect the Star Wars legacy? It would have to be a person. It would have to be George Lucas. It would have to be George Lucas. I wouldn't even trust Spielberg with it. It doesn't matter. If Kathleen Kennedy gets fired tomorrow, it doesn't matter. I don't think the culture is going to change at Lucasfilm. I think the culture is embedded, absolutely embedded. Dixon Cunts for $10. JJ Abrams, Disney Star Wars is like poetry. It sucks. Straight edged alternate universe Gary. Wonder if Kathleen Kennedy stays in her office all day or not. I doubt it. I doubt she's there. I think she pops in once in a while. She travels a lot. Neil Oakley for 10 pounds. It's all horse crap. Jar Jar, Ryan, etc. Rianne have merely pushed people towards the original trilogy. Even the prequels are acceptable in contrast. Screw Kathleen Kennedy and Disney. Absolutely agree with you. Thank you for the 10 pounds. Rupert Patterson for $9.99. Take this as gospel or a grain of salt. Sounds like an attempt, double bluff to sound more convincing. Like the writer is saying they don't care if you don't believe them or not. That's my take. Oh, and I agree with it. I can't remember the author's name, but the person who was always right about the Game of Thrones prequels, or I say prequels, Game of Thrones leaks, they always left a little nugget of why they know what they know. They always left a little nugget of a set story or something to add legitimacy. And what added more legitimacy was the leak coming true. See, the most important thing about these leaks, right, is at some point they need to come true or not. So when the leak leads with, you'll probably never see this, blah, 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 then you're just killing time reading some fanfic. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I have heard people on live streams within the last 24 hours invoke Mike Zero. Invoke Mike Zero. I fully support Mike Zero and what he does on his channel. But I do not believe Mike Zero for 1 second. And I think a lot of people go there for laughs, but I know some people take him seriously. I wouldn't, but that's up to you. Alex Aleo. Sorry, Star Wars is dead, and A Song of Ice and Fire won't be released until George dies and someone finishes it. LOL, amazing watching greats die, and the necrophilia. Yeah, well, with George, I have some constructive criticism. We'll get to it in just a second. I want to get through the Star Wars questions here. Why not bring back Alderaan for a cameo? I know, Paradox Guy, for $1.99. Why not? Hey, Gary. The paid Star Trek universe media is out of control. Is there nobody in the paid media who thinks with their brain about the never-ending train wreck, which is Kurtzman Trek? Keep preaching, brother. Thank you, Jeff. Why, Jeff? I will do my best. I don't know what went through their minds to post a guy's thoughts about communism on their website. I don't know how many fans they thought they would attract with that. Been down the pub all day for my birthday. Happy birthday, Jonathan Reese, for £5. Couldn't last year for my 40th, and come back to Gary's streaming day just gets better. Thanks, mate. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. It almost didn't happen today. A new computer arrives on Thursday, I believe. I've got to get a bunch of work done, but I need to do this. All right, so let's go to George. Let's go to George, shall we? And then we'll get back to those soups, and we'll get to, let me read a couple of donations first. Hang on. Sorry to go back and forth on you, but the doctor, 13. Jody is Peter Capaldi's favorite doctor. Somehow I don't believe it. He might say it out loud. But no. Pogue for $5. Thank you for the $1.38. For $5, enjoy all the content you've been creating. I'm completely done with Star Wars 2. Yep. There's plenty of other stuff to talk about. The greatest trilogy in the world, the greatest trilogy to ever be created, Lord of the Rings, does have a TV show coming out. Probably going to be woke garbage, but hopefully it's not. If it's not, then, oh my God, we have this great show to talk about if it ever comes out. I'm watching The Invaders in color and The Defenders of Earth, says Space Dinosaur for $5. Good for you. Keep watching old stuff. It's more entertaining. I'm gonna be watching Invincible, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it probably early next week. I'm gonna bust through all of it over the next few days. But I'm watching a lot of Falcon and Winter Soldier to get my notes right and stuff, because there is some horrific writing. Okay, Gary, love your stuff. I think Vara Dark would be a great guest for Friday Night Tight. She makes great videos on gaming news, pop culture, and has some fantastic takes on things. Think she would fit in well with the vibes of the show. I will, Doug, I will consider her. Absolutely. I'll go check it out. Thanks, Doug. No, I love hearing suggestions for guests. That's good. That's a good thing. You can sign out, but never leave. Says Wolfger for $10. Right. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Hollywood just doesn't make me excited anymore. However, waiting for the next live stream from you and anyone else is far more riveting. Love you guys. Oh, Phoenix Tangent. Thank you very much for $5.99. Thank you. I appreciate that. We got, here we go. All right. Super chats. I'll get right back to you. Let's go to this George R. Martin blog, shall we? Here we go. Latest update from Mr. George R. R. Martin. Let me zoom that in a little bit. That better for y'all? That's better. That's better for y'all. Okay. Not a blogging. April 13th, 2021, 4:39 p.m. That's yesterday. Way back when on LiveJournal, when I started this column or journal or whatever it is, I called it my not a blog because I could see that regular blogging was a lot of work and I didn't think I had the time to devote to it. I was late on a book back then, though I do not recall which one. I figured I would just make posts from time to time when I had an important announcement, when the mood struck me, whatever. That book was A Storm of Swords, by the way. Somehow, though, over the decades, the Not a Blog became a blog, and what I had intended as occasional pleasure and a way to stay in touch with my readers has become a blog, ironically, at the same time as everyone else has abandoned their blogs for Facebook and Twitter, complete with a sense of obligation. And when a lot of stuff happens very fast, I fall further and further behind. I am hugely behind right now. And the purpose and the prospect of trying to catch up is feeling increasingly oppressive. George goes into some things. There's some real life stuff where I will, when we get there, I have great sympathy for him. But there's another thing that I think would alleviate this pressure. And it's far be it from me. You know, George is, I believe, 20 something years older than I am, a couple decades. So I'm usually not about giving advice to people much older than me, but I'm going to give it anyway. Going to give a little life coaching advice to George R. Martin on impulse control. Impulse control, something I have a problem with too. We all, you know, or maybe some people have it really down, but impulse control. I am hugely behind right now, he says. My life has become one of extremes these past few months. Some days I do not know whether to laugh or to cry, to shoot off fireworks and dance in the streets, or crawl back into bed and pull the covers over my head. The good stuff has all been happening to me, has been very, 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 very good. The kind of thing that will make a year or a career. Dude, your career is already made. It's already made. But the bad stuff that is happening has been very, very, very bad. Okay. If any of you have read the stories about me on the internet, you will know my good news. I have a 5-year deal with HBO to create new Game of Thrones successor shows and some non-related series like Roadmarks for both HBO and HBO Max. It's an incredible deal, an amazing deal, very exciting, and I want to tell you all about it, although it seems the press has already done that. There are stories in all the trades. You can read about it. These days, I almost never get to break my news about myself. The Hollywood press is always ahead of me. Some of their stories are even correct. I will blog about it, I expect, but not today. Yes, he has a 5-show deal with HBO and HBO Max. A man in his 70s whose career is already made, who hasn't finished a big book, that if he did finish this book, it would help those successor series. If he doesn't finish the book, those successor series will be dead on arrival. On the other side of the coin, I am now fully poked in the arm. Hooray, hooray, that's good. However, I have lost a lot of friends. He's lost a lot of friends. He's lost 6 friends. So that, take all the time you need for. Of course. Take all the time you need for that. We've all lost people. Haven't lost 6, but we've all lost people. Some of us have lost family. But you know what? The show must go on. Life must go on. I don't know if George has kids or not. I honestly don't know. For me, it's a great motivator. I got to make sure my kid grows up in a stable environment, as stable as possible. It's not that great right now because, you know, we're always working and traveling. And it's been tough on him, you know, but we all got to move on. We all got to do this stuff anyway. And then there's you get to pretend for a living. You get to write. Now, you can't just crap that stuff out. Again, I understand, but it can also be incredibly healing and cathartic. For example, when my dad died, I went to work 3 days after he died because I wanted to get back to work. Because it helped. Honestly, it is hard to dance in the streets, even for a deal of a lifetime, when another loved one dies. I get it. There's lots more going on. Meow Wolf stuff, railroad stuff. Beastly Books has reopened, but the JCC is still shuttered, the theater. The Jets traded Sam Darnold away. Who gives a fuck? I am going to be leaving my cabin in a couple of months. I am close to delivering. Wait for it. Pairing up a brand new Wild Cards book. All right, how are we going to take this? He's leaving his cabin. He's leaving his cabin in a couple of months. Now, let's talk about this. For one, my condolences to the friends who have died. I am not going to give the guy shit at all ever for taking time to mourn friends. It's tough. There's that. But then you took a 5-year show, a 5-show deal on HBO. So, all right, I'm willing against my better judgment, to think that maybe he's close to finishing Wins a Winner. He's leaving the cabin in 2 months, and he signed that deal. So if he leaves so here's what we'll know, okay? Because I'm going to give him 60 days, just on Wins a Winner, by the way. I'm going to give him 60 days. He's leaving the cabin in 2 months. Then we'll know. We'll know when he leaves that cabin. Is it just for quarantine reasons? Well, then why not just leave now? Or is he actually close? And that's why he signed the deal. Am I saying there's like if there's a ray of hope of anything, it's that he might finish the Winds of Winter. There is still no ray of hope of him finishing A Dream for Spring. It's not even the next book he's going to write. He's going to write a Dunk and Egg book. That's what he said. He's thinking about it anyway. But there might be a ray of hope here. Or he leaves the cabin, says he's way behind on the Winds of Winter, and he signed the 5-show deal anyway, and F the fans. And maybe the other way to look at it is maybe he came really close to being honest with his fans, which is, I'm not going to finish this. And the fact of the matter is, folks, somebody else can't finish this. It will be incredibly unsatisfying. Nobody writes like George. Nobody writes like George. Not this series. So I think there's a couple of ways you can look at this. I lean heavily towards he's not going to finish the book. He's going to blow people off, and he's just leaving in a couple of months because of the. But I'm willing to entertain a thought that he might be close to finishing Winds of Winter. Now, as some of you may or may not know, I have obsessively read these books. And I've kind of come to terms with the books aren't going to finish. I've been playing around, not that I need another thing to do right now, but I've been playing around with the idea of doing a Song of Ice and Fire book club where we read the boiled leather version, or the Feast for Dragon. I think it's, oh my God, is it the Wiki of Ice? I can't remember who there's 2 versions of the melding of Dance of Dragons and Feast for Crows, and it's called a Feast for Dragons because there was supposed to be one book, right? So there's a boiled leather version of the chapters that you read, and we go through and read that, and then we come up with our own ending. That's the best I could offer. But since I've put so much time into it, yeah, I'd like to come up with my own ending, because I don't think we're going to get an ending from George, and I don't think we're going to get an ending from another writer either. I don't think he wants other people to finish it. That's the last I heard. But there's still people out there, man, theorizing away, having a good time. And if you're just a show watcher, again, I mean, the show sucked at the end on a lot of levels, but now that you look back on it, it goes way back to the not bringing in Lady Stoneheart, not bringing in enough magic. He spent basically 2 books setting up this fucking badass Northern conspiracy that involves the Mandalays, that involves possibly, well, at least one side of the Umber family, the Glovers, the Mormonts, possibly King Stannis, the northern clans, and they're planning their own red wedding, like revenge for the red wedding. And the Boltons and the Freys are trapped at Winterfell right now. They're snowed in. And at the end of the book, Roose Bolton, to get rid of some people from the snowed in Winterfell, sends out the Freys. And the Mandalays, and they send out, but they don't send out at all. No, I think they sent out Ramsay too. I think Ramsay goes out too. I'm not sure though, or maybe it's just Hosteen Frey and Big Walder, right? Is it Big Walder? Because Little Walder got murdered right beforehand. But there's this vast conspiracy, and it all centers around Theon. Basically, Theon becomes an incredibly important character at the end, and might have all the Greyjoys have the best story at the end. I know that's hard to believe if you just watch the show. You just watch the show, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, Asha Greyjoy, not Yara Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy, Victarion Greyjoy, and Euron Greyjoy all have the most interesting shit going on towards the end. And they are pivotal on what's going on while Daenerys is fucking around doing nothing, and Jon is making every right decision that's going to get him killed. And Tyrion is great at the end, and they leave this all. I mean, it's so fucking frustrating. You want to talk about the worst case of like nerd blue balls ever? It's this. So yeah, there's a part of me. There's a part of me that really wants to believe that he's almost done with this fucking book, but I just most of me doesn't believe that. It does not believe that. So yeah, there's the Northern conspiracy going on. There's Euron Greyjoy wanting to become possibly a god. There's another. There's a Maester conspiracy going on. That they might be suppressing magic, and maybe they have a good reason for it. I don't know. We don't know what the House of the Undying is, or the Faceless Men are doing right now. They're up to something too, because one of them is at the Citadel, which is where the Maesters are, where Sam is at right now. We're introduced to an Archmaester named Marwyn, who has these things called glass candles, which is like a crystal ball, and these glass candles turns out that these things are, again, pivotal to the story, because you can talk to people across long distances, and you can project dreams. And yeah, so, Quaithe, remember Quaithe? If you watch the show, Quaithe showed up for like a minute. She had the mask on, talked to, God, was it season 2? Season 3. Yeah, they never talked about her again. She's important in this story, and it's a mystery who she is. We have a fake Aegon, or Fagon, who might not be fake after all, and Daenerys might be a fake Targaryen. Jon Snow is probably going to get resurrected by the Whites, possibly, but not Melisandre. See, one of the biggest mistakes the show made was when Melisandre raised Jon from the dead. That's see, George was setting that up, and I don't know if Dan and Dave stopped paying attention. It seems to me George stopped consulting on the series. George set shit up to not happen. I mean, that's the one thing that happens consistently in the book. Whatever plans are being made aren't going to go down the way you expect it. So Melisandre will not be resurrecting Jon. It'll be maybe Lady Stoneheart. I don't know how she'd get to the wall, though. My guess is it's the others. And Jon possibly becomes the equivalent of the Night King for a little while, at least. That's a possibility. Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit that we're never, ever, ever going to fucking know. And yeah, it's tough to let this go when you spent like a decade reading this stuff. And, I love this as much as I loved anything, like you guys have heard many times before. But it's this part right here. And you get a little, he said it made his career. It makes his career. It's like, does George still think he's like in his 30s, like grinding? A lot of his success came in later in life, right? But that's where the impulse control comes in. So how Game of Thrones can be saved. You know how Game of Thrones can be saved? George, Game of Thrones can be saved by you saying no. No to Warner Brothers. You did not need to sign this deal. Do you seriously think you're going to develop 5 shows? 5 shows, 5 fucking shows, and finish a book, and work on wild cards, and do Dunk and Egg, and work on your Choo Choo Train, and work with Meow Wolf, and your fucking he's got a lot going on, and that's great. He's got a lot going on in his life, but these Game of Thrones shows are going to be dead on arrival if you don't finish Winds of Winter and your book series. If you finish your book series, that could go a long way to helping whatever Game of Thrones shows they fucking put on HBO Max. And George, I'll get to your super chat in just a moment. Because of headcanon, I'll tell you right now, the show finished as a complete disaster. You can't change that. But if we got a good, proper ending to the book, I would watch more shows. I would. And I think those shows would probably take cues from the books and not from the previous Game of Thrones series. And then it could work. Then it could work. I mean, that's aside from all the other problems that I know you're going to bring up, and you would be right, audience, because you are mostly always right. Okay. You would say, Gary, what about the identity politics? What about the intersectional feminism? Yeah. Well, yeah. We're already seeing it. And then in the first prequel, we're already seeing it. Already seeing it. But, and will George put it in his books? I have always said that his delay is from his peers. He is too worried that his peers are going to cancel him because of his writing style. There is a great line. It's a horrific line, but there is a great line in A Dance of Dragons in Reek 2 or 3, where Reek, who is Theon Greyjoy, is standing next to Roose and Ramsay Bolton. And they're Ramsay Bolton and Roose Bolton are arguing. And by the way, Roose Bolton is like a bazillion times better in the book than he is in the show. The guy who played Ramsay in the show did a good job. He doesn't look anything like him, but he did a good job. But you get the backstory on Ramsay Bolton. You find out how he came to be. And Roose Bolton was fox hunting one day, and he saw a washerwoman, a wife to some miller, and he liked her teats, and he's all, I'm going to bet her because I have the right to first night. Roose Bolton was still practicing the right of first night, even though it was illegal at the time. He didn't give a shit. So he was still practicing it. And he hanged the miller because he didn't tell him about the marriage, and he had his way. So he's arguing with Ramsay, and he goes, don't make me rue the day I raped your mother. And it's a horrible line, and it's a funny line, right? Coming from these two fucking horribly evil people talking. And Roose Bolton, what they didn't really set up in the show is like he's practically a vampire. He can go out during the day and stuff, but he leeches himself constantly. He leeches himself, so he has no emotions. He doesn't feel love or hate or envy or any of those things. He doesn't cry. He doesn't get mad. The only thing that gives him any type of kicks is cruelty. So he's kind of a Hannibal Lecter kind of guy. So yeah, he utters an awful line like that. Do you think George could write a line like that right now? Don't make me rue the day I draped your mother. No, he can't. So there's that problem. And these are all the people that George has been supporting and stuff. And look at how they treated him during the Hugo Awards, right? So the Hugo Awards mean a lot to George. I remember George writing in his Not a Blog many moons ago how pissed he was that he lost the Hugo to Harry Potter, and he fucking slammed J.K. Rowling. He did. He thought he had a better book, and he was pissed that he lost the Hugo when J.K. Rowling could care less if she won a Hugo or not, which is funny. But no, all the people who are friends with George now will cancel his ass for writing a line like that, so he can't finish the fucking book. For that reason. So I want to believe that he's almost done with the book, but I think and I'll hold out that 0.1% chance that he might be. But I think it's far more likely that he's getting us all ready. He said, I fell behind and I'm leaving the cabin in 2 weeks. And I know most people just don't care anymore. I think they have just fucking moved on. But I still talk about it because they're in a way I still care. I do. All right. So we got George Malo. What's up, George Malo? For $500. Jesus Christie. Two things to do with woke Yahtzees. Either memorialize 167 genders snitch on Friends, accept their turd flinging films, or tell him to pound sand. Easiest way to win. Never acknowledge, apologize, or affirm them. Stand up, stand tall, stand free. Couch mouse. Kathleen Kennedy made Indy's whip go limp. Oh. She turned it into a pink pussy hat. That's what I was almost going to put on my video if I was going to do it. I was going to put a pink pussy hat on Indiana Jones. Hail Nerdrotic. Hail George. Hail George again. That reminds me. You dropped one at the end of the live stream on Sunday. Hang on. I got to read that too. Saw Dog for $50 says, hey, Nerdrotic and fellow fans, caught you streaming and I thought I'd support you and all the great stuff you do. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mutated Genome for $5. When's the winner delayed again? George R. Martin doing a lot of rewrites for more diversity. Got to get a few more toxic males in there too. Okay. I'm going to read George's super chat and then I'm going to read you an email I got from somebody who says they work for his publisher. I don't know if, again, grain of salt. I wasn't going to read this at all, but I'll tell you about it. Why the fuck not? We're here. George, where did your super chat go? I know you dropped one at the end. Oh, it must be way down here. Sorry, folks. Give me just a moment. I owe this to George. Some of the super chats have been disappearing. X-Ray Girl told me that, and that probably has something to do with the back end of YouTube being very messy. Maybe it needs a suppository. I don't know. CJ O'Neill. I read that one. Yeah, it's just flat out not here. What the hell? George, I'm going to have to find that somewhere. Give me a second. There might be another way to find it. Because George left a huge damn super chat, and now I'm not seeing it at all. There might be another way. Let me try this. Okay. And yes, I am serious about doing a Song of Ice and Fire book club where we read the last two. We're not going to go over the whole series again. We're going to read the boiled leather version of A Feast for Crows and A Dance for Dragons. And then we're all going to, when we're done, we're going to work out an ending. We're going to work out an ending in the way George would do it. And I think if we all work together, we can at least come up with something we all like. Because and it's just something to do. It's just something to do that isn't talking about culture war. This is the best way to do it, I guess. Was it 411, George? Okay. George, was it this one? No, it wasn't that one. Hey, Gary, it's a good idea when a moist pickle like Will complains about capitalism. Exchange communism with Virgin. His anger stems from no girl would sleep with him. The only choice for the beta Bob is to go lefty and worship the fugly blue-haired fuzzy girl for $400. That was from 4-9. George, I know you did one on 411 though, and it's just we're gonna have to screen cap it from the show. I know X-Ray Girl. If X-Ray Girl, if you can do that, if you're out there, I'd appreciate it. Throw it in Twitter. All right. So George's impulse control has always been a problem, right? And I understand that. I get that. But again, you're in your 70s. And yes, HBO comes with you with this huge deal. We want you to develop these Game of Thrones shows. And you're like, I haven't finished the book yet. And they're like, yeah. One of the shows isn't from this book series. It's from your other associated Game of Thrones book series that isn't finished, Dunk and Egg. Great. Okay, let's do it. But again, if you finished the book series, that would give these shows a chance. They would have a fighting chance. Without finishing the book series, you do not have a fighting chance. It wasn't just the stories that Dan and Dave passed up and gave up on and stopped telling with George's work. It was not having George's dialogue to adapt. I think one of the only lines I honestly remember that was show only and not George was "Chaos is a ladder." I think that one's good. I think that one was pretty good. But most of the time they were just adapting. There it is right there. There it is. Okay. George Mallow for $300. Thank you, Eric K. Couldn't say it better than Churchill. Socialism is the philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue in the equal sharing of misery. I doubt he'd think men would have turned beta worshiping the fuzzy suzzies. My best to you both. Hail Doomcock. Hail Nerdrotic. Hail, sir. Hail. Yeah, we're talking about Star Trek communist there. Back to George. Thank you, George Mallow. I think if maybe the book's close to finished, we'll find out in 2 months. In 2 months, and I'm sure most of you have already given up. In 2 months, if he comes out and says, hey, I've got this book finished and I've mapped out Dream of Spring and I can have it within a couple of years, sure, I might be able to believe that. It'd be hard. But the way things are going, I think the main sentence there is, I have fallen behind. He has been locked in a room for a year. All he had to do was finish Winds of Winter, and everything else, he'd be free for at least a little while. but I think somebody just mentions this in the chat. I think he was doing tons of rewrites to make it more PC, more intersectional, which he didn't need to do, and which fucked up the ending. I think he had to basically rewrite the whole damn book. He had to rewrite the whole damn book. There's a bunch of sample chapters out there. He already said a couple of those are going to be massively changed. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Thank you, George. Thank you, George. We got Here in the Steadfast for $12.99 Canadian. My suggestion for a Song of Ice and Fire ending is to do with Jamie killing the Night King and seeing Bessie's milkers in her prime. Oh, yes. Bessie's teats. Bessie's teats. Yeah, as it stands right now, the Maid of Tarth has grabbed Jamie and is taking him to see Lady Stoneheart to have him hanged. We'll see how he gets out of this one. Prime boobies. Yes, prime boobies. We like prime boobies. We do. Sorry, this isn't the normal way I do a live stream. Hail, Gary. The Roose Bolton line reminds me of Tony Stark's Prima Nocta line, written by Joss Whedon and Ultron. Clay Johnson. I got to watch that again. Not sure. Justin, but thank you for the $5 for $1.49. Thank you for the hot dog, Justin White. Hardwick Benthau for $5. Instead of calling them by the dice game nickname, why not call those German bad guys Razzies like Simon and Kirby did in the Boy Commandos comics? Oh, that's a good idea. The Razzies. That might be good. I'm okay with that. Hardwick. Here in the Steadfast. Thank you again for the $12.99 Canadian. $5 from JWT6577. The end is easy. Stannis reclaims Winterfell for the Starks. Rallies the North, reclaims Westeros, beats the others, and pimp slaps Dany back to Essos. You're a Stannis the Manus fan, are you? But the end's not easy. So we're setting up the vast Northern conspiracy, which I think was already set up before Stannis came into play. Then he came into play. And it's obviously being funded by the Bravasi Bank. Tycho. Oh, I forgot his last name now. Tycho. And I just read some of this last night, but my memory's shit. So that's being funded. He's going to set up a beacon fire, right? So he's stuck in this fisher village that's got a tower. And it's outside a frozen lake. They have been digging tons of holes in the frozen lake to fish. So the lake disappears in the snowfall. We have the hang on just a second. Okay, so he's got, okay, so we have the Manderleys, and we got the Freys, and we have, I don't know if many Bolton troops are going. They're on their way to the Fisher Village. And on top of this tower that Stannis has Theon in, remember, Theon escaped. He escaped with Jane Poole, who was the fake Arya. What they were setting up through all of the Reek storyline is a bunch of things, actually. But they were setting up the Northern conspiracy. They're setting up Theon's redemption, and they're setting up the old gods of the North, and how the North, we learned a lot about the North. Barrington is on a giant barrow. that could have been the first king. That could have been he could have been a giant. They're not sure. That the Northern Lords used to practice blood sacrifices to the heart trees quite often. We learned this through Davos too. But also Theon knows the Boltons, for as smart as they were complete idiots for just having Theon around and telling him fucking everything. He knows secret passages into the Dreadfort. He knows their strategy. Theon wasn't dumb to begin with. He was a pretty decent, I wouldn't say commander, but he could have been. Before he got his, sausage cut off and all his fingers cut off and tortured practically to death. He was, a good fighter. He was trained by Roderick Cassell, fought with Jon Snow and Robb. Theon could hold his own, but he was tortured beyond belief. And he starts praying to the Northern gods towards the end. Towards the end of his story, he starts praying, which is basically praying to Bran. And he becomes incredibly important. So he escapes with Jane Poole and makes his way to Stannis. And Stannis is probably going to have to fake kill him and kill Karstark instead. But what they're going to do is they're going to light a fire out on this island in the middle of the lake that's got a bunch of holes dug in it. And the snow is going to cover the holes, and they're going to lure those forces out. Hopefully the Manderleys, who is actually on their side, avoid the lake. And it's just the Freys. I think it's just going to be the Freys who go on that lake. And Stannis is going to pay the North back for the Red Wedding. And what they've been setting up is Stannis has no chance in this fight. He's dead. I mean, half of his troops are starving. They're starting to eat each other. Nobody's, half of them are Northern clansmen who hate R'hllor. And the only reason Stannis is going to Winterfell to free the fake Arya, he doesn't know it's fake, is to appease the Northern clansmen so they will stick around because he needs them. The Southern Knights are folding under what isn't even winter storm. It's a fall storm. You got Asha Greyjoy there, who's actually an interesting character, a very interesting character. And there's a lot of shit going down. And he just got a bunch of money from a Bravosi bank out of nowhere. The guy pops out of nowhere and goes, "Yes, Mr. Stannis, I want to give you a bunch of money." Why? Well, it's because Cersei Lannister, in her infinite wisdom, decided to stiff her payment to the Bravosi bank, to the Iron Bank. You don't do that. The Iron Bank will have its due. So there's a lot of exciting shit going that the show just didn't have time for because they wanted to ship fucking everybody. They started, well, and you know what? And the intersectional feminism did ruin the show. The whole fucking Dorne storyline was so fucking lame. And it was because of Me Too Times Up. But no, Stannis eventually is going to burn his daughter. That is going to happen. George said that was going to happen, and it's Stannis who does it, and it's fucked up. So he might win a battle, but I think Stannis is going to die. I do. The others, you're going to find out that the others might not be the ultimate bad guy. They might not be the ultimate bad guy. Neil Oakley for £5. Sadly, no Christopher Martin to carry on. R.I.P. Ice and Fire. Yeah, you're right. There's no Christopher Martin. There is no son to carry on your legacy. Christopher Tolkien, one of the greatest sons ever born. Have you seen Boss Level? It's excellent, says Hardwick Benthau. No, Odin told me to watch it, and I need to watch it. Maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Sean McD for $5. Big fan of the Northern Conspiracy. I am too. Zathras for £5 says, I'm in for a Feast for Dragons book club, Gary, anytime. Yes. When I'm more prepared and I have my notes, I'll get ready. I've got theories. On how they can end it. I was looking forward to see how George would have ended, but I do think the ending of the show is how the books will end. It's just the journey there will be a lot different. Hail, Gary. Regarding the Lord of the Rings show, and by the way, thank you, Zathras. If you need to add sex to a story that didn't have it in the first place and was great without it, you don't have much of a story to tell if you need sex to prop it up. Yeah. Revresco Animo for $10. I agree with you. Now, I think Hollywood is missing sex in a lot of stuff. But Lord of the Rings doesn't need to be one of them. It's a great story anyway, and it's going to have the same problem as Game of Thrones is going to have with these 5 shows. You can adapt all the lore you want, but what made Tolkien unique, what made his stories relatable to men and women of all shapes and sizes for decades was his dialogue, was the dialogue in that story. And you're not adapting a word of it. Thank you again for the $500, George. Damn it. Flicks by Cody for $5. I keep seeing articles about Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. Did you just discover this show? Also, how about bringing on Lorena Creel? Yeah, she wants to come on. Just hit me up. If people want to come on, I go live twice a week, and right now I'm on StreamYards. I don't know. All I got to do is ask, but yeah, we'll bring them on. Tartakovsky's Clone Wars are fucking amazing. I prefer it to the, man, I don't want to make people mad. Clone Wars is a good show. It's a good show. But it's bland to me. It's kind of bland. There are some great moments in it though. That last episode of the last season, that was good. That was fucking good. No doubt. There was some really good stuff. There was great moments in Rebel, and there was some cringe fucking intersectional moments in Rebels that I don't like, but I'm just not that excited for Star Wars. But Tartakovsky's Clone Wars is the shit, is absolutely great. And I guess the DVDs, you can still find it. I have them. I bought them when they came out, because I'm a huge fan of Samurai Jack, and fucking Primal is awesome. Primal is great. Thank you for the phallic unicorn, Sassy Marie, for $1.49. I appreciate it. Please read my email, Army Hammer, when you can. I will. Hardwick Benthau for $2. I will. Thank you. Daniel McAllister for €5. Can you recommend a good Superman comic book series that isn't woke? I've never read any and was looking at Red Sun or 1986 Man of Steel series. I would start out with the Man of Steel. Red Sun that's a Elseworld story. So I would look into Man of Steel series, because you want to get familiar with Superman before you get into like the Death of Superman and stuff by Jurgens. That's all pretty good. Man of Tomorrow, was it Man of Tomorrow? I'm blanking. Yeah, God, man, memory's not working well this morning. I don't think I slept well last night. But yeah, Man of Steel. It is on my spinner rack, and it is fantastic. And then, you could read Justice, Superman's Injustice. We were talking about that yesterday by Alex Ross. That's really good. Kingdom Come's a great Superman story. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore. It's an annual, I believe. Yeah, but Man of Steel, you can't go wrong. Cannot go wrong. Paul Turner for $20. Hey, Gary, I asked last stream about any interest in Toku. Not to harp on it, but if you haven't checked it out, I personally recommend Kamen Rider with great superhero detective story. Episodes 1 and 2 are up on YouTube for free, and it's called what's it called again? A Common Rider. Okay, I'll check it out. Paul Turner. What is it? It's and how is it on YouTube for free? That's what I ask. Let me take a look. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. Thanks, Paul. Nick B for £2. The BBC Luther article is unbelievable. All right, let's take a look at it. Wow. Wow. Getting rid of some of these windows here. Hang on. Real deal. BBC diversity chief says Idris Elba's Luther didn't feel authentically black because he had no black friends. The BBC diversity chief has said Idris Elba's Luther didn't feel. Yeah, we read that. Idris, 48, has played the titular detective since 2010. However, Miranda Wayland has now said that despite being a landmark moment for the BBC, the series is only superficially diverse and could have been even more authentic. She added that the corporation, which has since proudly proclaimed programs such as A Suitable Boy and Small Axe, is now working to portray minority groups in a more rounded and convincing way. Speaking with the MIPTV conference this week, Miranda said when Luther first came out, everyone loved it and the fact that Idris Elba was in there and really strong black character lead. We all fell in love. We liked Idris Elba. We liked him as an actor. But after you got into around the second series, you got kind of like, okay, he doesn't have any black friends. He doesn't eat any Caribbean food. Wow. He doesn't eat any Caribbean food. These people. I'm getting her name. I want to see what this woman looks like. One moment. He doesn't eat any Caribbean food. You know, when I look for authenticity, for the most part, I don't want to see when somebody's sitting down and eating in a scene, they better be talking about something. Maybe he ate his Caribbean food off screen. That's where we are. Didn't eat any fucking Caribbean food. Who cares if he doesn't like it? She added the solution wasn't as simple as just hiring black directors. A BBC spokesperson said Luther is a multiple award-winning crime drama series and an iconic role of DCI. John Luther has become one of the TV's most powerful detective characters, of which we are tremendously proud. The BBC is committed to its continued investment in diversity, and recent BBC One dramas I May Destroy You and Small Axe are a testament to do that. It's funny that there's a show on the BBC called I May Destroy You. Now, the show might be fine, But interesting. The BBC is committed to continue its blah, blah, blah. Of course, people can have open discussions about our shows, but that doesn't mean it's a statement of policy. However, Luther creator Neil Cross shared his surprise at the comments and revealed Idris only agreed to the role because race was not considered important to the character. He said, I have no knowledge or expertise or right to try to tackle in some way the experience of being black in modern Britain. It would be an act of tremendous arrogance for me to try to write a black character. We would have ended up with a slightly embarrassed, ignorant, middle-class white writer's idea of a black character. For one, a writer can write whatever he wants. You're just writing a character. It's pretend. The BBC also defended the character and said it was tremendously proud. Okay, the corporation has said it will spend £100 million on its content budget on diverse programming for over 3 years. The BBC's Creative Diversity Unit, was established in November 2019 with the appointment of June Sarpong as the BBC's first director of creative diversity. Meanwhile, as a Luther film is in the works, with Idris confirming the news in August of last year. The sky is the limit. So, Miranda Whalen, let's see what her background is. She doesn't have a Wikipedia, but she's got a LinkedIn. So they made up this job for this woman. Who is Miranda Whalen? BBC diversity head says Idris Elba Luther doesn't feel authentic. Well, it's a fake TV show. Maybe we should shoot a scene with him eating Caribbean food. Yeah, that's some pretty. Thanks for sharing that with me. Let's get to John Cleese, shall we? I feel so weird using StreamYards. I'm so used to using my Stream Deck. But that'll be back in a couple days. John Cleese mocks Hank Azaria's Apu apology. Actor John Cleese, known for his Monty Python films, as well as being the narrator for the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I didn't know that. Mocked Hank Azaria for his recent apology over the Simpsons Apu character. During a recent appearance on Armchair Expert podcast, Azaria issued an apology for voicing Apu. While discussing an encounter he had with a 17-year-old who had never seen The Simpsons, Azaria stated, I told him, and I'm going to say to you right now, I really do apologize. He continued, I apologize for my part in creating that, in participating in that. You know, part of me feels like I need to go to every single Indian person in this country and personally apologize. Cleese mocked Azaria's apology writing on Twitter. Not wishing to be left behind by Hank Azaria. I would like to apologize on behalf of Monty Python for all the many sketches we did making fun of white English people. He added, we're sorry for any distress we may have caused. And somebody, the tweet's gone now, but somebody said, oh, it only took 30 seconds for some old white man to blah, 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 blah. Me and Az were covering this yesterday, and Az said, yeah, that woman needs dick. So I decided to respond with that woman needs dick, or that dude. I don't know. Could be a dude. Cleese would continue mocking Azaria's apology, responding to a number of people on Twitter. In one tweet, he wrote, we settled when it comes to, and what about the Yorkshire man made fun of? I bet they took gallons of #umbrage. We settled out of court mainly for nursing home expenses. What about the Americans, John? What about all the Americans that you disparaged? What about us? This one's great. No apologizing to the Romans then. After all, they have the Roman. What have the Romans ever done for us? They enslaved us for over 3 centuries and they owe us reparations. Oh, yes. I could count myself in that because my ancestors were enslaved by the Romans. They were. So I want some of that sweet Roman reparations. I do. Then I'm sorry we found them all hilarious. Couldn't help ourselves. That makes you all oppressors. Well, we're all oppressors. This is a terrible dad joke he ends with. Ooh, craving a bag of those otter noses right about now. Don't bait the vegans. They don't have enough on their plate anyway. Oh, John, you just went one too long there, buddy. Now, John, he comes out against political correctness once in a while. He is certainly one of those people who was part of the problem for a little while, but then he kind of flipped. And I think he's just, maybe he's woken up to what's going on at a very late age. Now that he's seen that they have been coming pretty hard for Monty Python, all of a sudden he's willing to defend this shit. What we need is more of this, a lot more of this, and a lot less of Hank Azar. I mean, that is so fucking weak what he did, apologizing for Apu. He was hired for the job. Where's Matt Groening? Is he going to apologize? He's the one who came up with the character. Oh, and it gets cringe too. If we go to the original article where he apologized, he throws Peter Sellers under the bus. He throws his inspiration under the bus. The guy he basically ripped off. He throws him under the bus. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. There was a tweet last night that I can bring up here. I'll just read it to you. I don't need to show it to you. It was from the Associated Press style book. So this came from the official Associated Press site. Don't use the term mistress for women who is in a long-term sexual relationship with and is financially supported by a man who is married to someone else. Instead, use an alternative like companion, friend, or lover on first reference, and provide additional details later. Now, I think I added, I'll stick with homewrecker personally. Then we had legendary Fat Steven Seagal said, homewrecker does fit. Mistress also fits. Why even push this type of stupidity? Agreed. And this thing is being ratioed to hell, I believe. Let me see. Let's go to the real one. Yeah, it is. Here, I can show you. concubine, consort, courtesan. What about that? Exactly. She is an adulteress. Sporking News podcast. It's about as bad as what I said, to be honest with you. Clifton Duncan says glaring omission is side of pussy. My response was to say that you can't say sugar daddy anymore. You're no longer allowed to say sugar daddy for men. It is now alternative revenue solution. Alternative revenue solution instead of sugar daddy. This is how fucking stupid our world is getting. Bert Fredo says it's a sign of respect, especially when she is the dominant part of the relationship. It's only a bad word when you are cheating. Are you cheating? Are you cheating? I don't think a mistress is a bad word. It's just a name. It's a name. If you are offended about being a mistress, my first suggestion would be don't be a mistress. Don't be a homewrecker. Because there's a lot of dishonesty involved in a relationship like that. And dudes, don't cheat. Don't cheat. If you need to cheat, break up. Break up. Door is always the option. You owe her that. You owe her that. Don't cheat though. Or like, and I mean it. If you're in the wedding and she's walking down the aisle and there is a certain amount of question in your mind, you don't have to say I do. I mean, it sucks to get that far and stuff. You save yourself a lot of trouble. You want some more unsolicited advice? Do not get married in your 20s. Ever. Ever. We've got $100 from WG. Hail, Gary. Ever noticed a femme blue hair SJW often has a voice so husky it could pull a sleigh? Oh. Thank you for helping drown out the sound. Preach on, brother. Why, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'll do my best. I'm very happy to see occasionally adult pretenders, especially ones that I respect, like John Cleese. Like he is the Monty Python, Beatles of comedy, very influential in my life. I've watched him over and over again. I know it's tired to some people, but it's not to me. I've got a whole corner of my office dedicated to them. Turn on my fan. That reminds me. Oh, it's too high. That's better. It's nice to see them occasionally come out and defend sanity and common sense, because that's all we've been doing is trying to defend common sense, which has taken a break, taken a vacation for the last few years. Kind of like freedom has taken a vacation for the last year or two. What do you, what's this? Who do you called hatred for $2 says, do you mean who do I play in the Spider-Man game behind me? I mean, I'll play anybody. You've got Hawkeye. You've got Black Cat, Namor, and Spider-Man. And then you fight Venom. But yeah, you see the players right there on the top. Got that? It's fun. It's very addicting. You can play that for a long, long time. Thank you for the $2. But yeah, as far as this, like, we can't use mistress and you can't use you can use whatever you like. Az likes to say this, I like to say it too. You can just say no to all of these ridiculous suggestions. Use whatever language you like whenever you feel it's appropriate. There's some stuff I wouldn't say at work if you're boss, but that's normal adult behavior. But as far as language on Twitter trying to say that you can't use the word mistress or AP when Gina Carano was being called the worst things imaginable. The worst things imaginable. They're all a bunch of fucking hypocrites. What can I say? But that's good. John Cleese says I've actually featured him in my videos before. He says he's got a pretty famous one here. Hang on, let's see if I can bring it up. He's got a pretty famous John Cleese on PC. Hang on. Here we go. I've included this in a video before. I think this is it. I could be wrong.
I'm offended every day. For example, the British newspapers every day offend me with their laziness, their nastiness, and their inaccuracy. But I'm not going to expect someone to stop that happening. I should just simply speak out about it. You know, sometimes when people are offended, they want somebody to just come in and say, right, stop that, to whoever is offending them. And of course, as a former chairman of the BBC once said, there are some people one would wish to offend. And I think there's truth in that too. So the idea that you have to be protected from any kind of uncomfortable emotion is one I absolutely do not subscribe to. And a fellow that I helped write two books about psychology and psychiatry, he was a renowned psychiatrist in London called Robin Skinner, said something very interesting to me. He said, if people can't control their own emotions, then they have to start trying to control other people's behavior. And when you're around super sensitive people, you cannot relax and be spontaneous because you have no idea what's going to upset them next. And that's why I've been warned recently, don't go to most university campuses, because the political correctness has been taken from being a good idea, which is let's not be mean, particularly to people who are not able to look after themselves very well. That's a good idea, to the point where any kind of criticism of any individual or group can be labeled cruel. And the whole point about humor, the whole point about comedy, and believe you me, I've thought about this, is that all comedy is critical. Even if you make a very inclusive joke, like, how'd you make God laugh? Answer, tell him your plans. Now, that's about the human condition. It's not excluding anyone. It's saying we all have all these plans which probably won't come. And isn't it funny how we still believe they're going to happen? So that's a very inclusive joke. It's still critical. All humor is critical. And if you start saying, oh, we mustn't criticize or offend them, then humor's gone. With humor goes a sense of proportion. And then as far as I'm concerned, you're living in 1984.
Boom. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Well said, sir. Well said. Tom Baker will always be my doctor. Ashley Eckstein will always be Ahsoka. Mark Hamill will always be my Luke and Joker. But time marches on. Sebastian can have a go. Rosario does a fine job. Tennant is always masterful. Well, it works with Tennant a lot more of the others because the Doctor does change. The Doctor does change. Sebastian can most definitely have a go, but he's always... Is he going to be able to replace Luke? See, Disney purchased Star Wars so they could usher out the old guard and start their own story. I think that's what everybody expected to happen. The biggest problem is Disney has been unable to create their own characters within the world that they purchased. It's been almost 10 years. It's been almost 10 years. So when I say a giant corporation cannot create from scratch or maintain a giant intellectual property that was originally created by a person, the only, especially now, especially without that big lead, right? Or that head person, Kevin Feige for Marvel. We had Gene Roddenberry for Star Trek, and then Rick Berman, right? There was that voice, that person that was there. You had very strong showrunners for Doctor Who. And the BBC, before they turned into the BBC of today, for a corporation was pretty cool. Like, they let people keep their rights. It ended up fucking them in the end, but they let people keep their rights. That's pretty cool. No matter even if it's probably for ignorance, but they're the ones who like, oh, we'll just tape over these. We don't need these old Doctor Who episodes. Russell Hall for $2 says John Cleese is as big of an SJW as Mar, but funnier. Yes. But this is how you change hearts and minds, because these are the people you want to see saying something. These are the people who were saying some SJW stuff before, and then they're like, whoa. This has gotten out of control. Yes, it has. So maybe the John Cleeses of the world and the Bill Maher's of the world need to dial back the half of the country is a Yahtzee bullshit, which has gone way out of control, like dangerously out of control, to the point where Major League Baseball decided to pick a political side and pull an all-star game out of Georgia. And now, their antitrust is being put into question, which it should have been a long time ago, by the way. BRND, what is this? Burn. I don't know. Is this spelled backwards? It's BRNDNREB. I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry, but thank you for the $10. We'll just say Reb. Have to love these Star Trek communists who say it's good ideology. It hasn't just been done right. Imagine if conservatives said Yahtzees had the right idea. It just wasn't done right. Yeah. Well, for one, you're not allowed to make those analogies. And number two, when it comes to communism, well, it depends on, they killed a lot more people than the Yahtzees did, the communists. And it hasn't been done right because it can't be done right. And every time it's been implemented, it turns into another thing. All right. So we have the type of communism that's practiced in China, which is, I don't know. It's not capitalism. It's not communism. What is it? I was trying to think of a word for it yesterday and I couldn't. But totalitarianism, capitalism, maybe, where you still have, you have currency. But what? And I'm not a political science major or ever took a class, but I do remember reading that communism has a big problem with intellectual property or private property because the state would own it. So by all means, CBS, you be the change you want to be. Give Star Trek to the people. Give Star Trek to the people. You fucking hypocrites. This is how you defeat the Star Trek communist argument. because his argument is there's communism within the story, right? That we can get there. We'll pick one thing. He said we live in a post-scarcity rule world right now. We can grow food and feed everyone right now, and it would be equal to having the replicator. Well, the replicator makes food out of thin air. It's a pretend magic bullshit machine that doesn't really exist. To grow food in the numbers that he's talking about to feed everyone for free requires manual labor. It requires land, resources, energy, fossil fuels. It would, are you willing to sacrifice that much of the environment? Because you would have to. And what capacity are we going to be feeding these people? Like, are we going to be feeding them meat? Or is it going to be soy? Is it going to be some just paste? I mean, what are we feeding them, for one? So if it's going to be a broad range, then you're going to need that many more people to actually make, grow, produce, package, transport all that food, which the replicator is just a button that magically makes your food. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. I think he's borderline delusional. And let me set the record straight on cosplay, because he's a cosplayer, and I give cosplayers a lot of shit, and I do. I don't hate cosplayers though. I appreciate the cosplayers who genuinely put on their costumes and go to a con, and they're not there to win a contest. They're not there to get they're there to get attention, but not just to get attention. They're there because, like, I'm going to wear this costume because I love this thing of the costume I'm wearing. There's that type of cosplayer. Then there's the cosplayer who is a model who gets dressed up by somebody else into some, anime character that they've never heard of. That's the kind of cosplayer I criticize. But yes, the Star Trek communist was a cosplayer. So you answer his argument with this. Oh, so you think Star Trek within the story is communism, which it's not. But let's talk about what Star Trek is in our reality, in our real life. It is a privately owned intellectual property made to accumulate wealth for $1 billion corporation. Argument over. So we got Fusion Nev says, don't care if they recast Luke as long as it's good. I mean, like, listen, bottom line, as long as it's good is what should matter to everyone. But that's where we get into that's where the problems start. Fusion is where I totally agree with you. I mean, if it's good, it doesn't really interest me. Do I care if they recast Luke? No, I don't. I honestly don't. Not now. Not after what they've done to Luke. Recast him away. Sebastian Stan is a good actor. He's a good actor. Would it be good? Probably not. Probably not. It depends on who works on it. It would have to be Jon Favreau. If Jon Favreau doesn't work on it, then it probably won't be good. Because how many good things has Disney Star Wars produced? Hey Gary, Deep Space Nine was my favorite Star Trek show. What is your favorite? What was your favorite episodes? Mine was Far Beyond the Stars, says David Humphrey for €5.49. My favorite episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, I'd have to look up the titles. I don't memorize all the episodes. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of Deep Space Nine. It's a show that when I saw it, I didn't like it at first, and then I grew to like it later. And I've been watching it in reruns, but I haven't seen an episode of it in like a year. Mine was, hang on, I'll look it up. There we go. I got to get to the third season. I'll get back to you on that one. I will get back to you on that one. We need to move on. But I have my list going. There it is. Okay. Be right back on that one. Next super chat. And thank you. Thank you. And I'm currently watching Babylon 5 for the first time. I know Star Trek Deep Space Nine fans and Babylon 5 fans sometimes can. Personally, I think it looks like you got two good shows out of it, which is great. Moons of Madness for £1.49 or for $1.49. Thank you for the phallic unicorn. Smooth Jam California for £5. It's Gina Carano's birthday this week. Oh, I did not know that. How much you want to bet that the Star Wars social media pages conveniently ignore it? Of course they will. They're not going. Yes, they're not going to bring it up. The Phantom Menace won't though. Hashtag Happy Birthday, Gina. Happy birthday, Gina. Yeah, she's launching her website, right? Is Far Beyond the Stars the one Mark Zickery wrote? I can't remember. I interviewed him about that. I have an interview with Mark Zickery on Nerdrotic Live. I didn't think it was that one. Yeah, there it goes. That's the one Mark Zickery wrote. Yes. That one's messed. That's a messed up episode, dude. And we discussed it in our interview. And it deals with racism, because Star Trek's been dealing with these type of subjects, and DS9 kind of leveled up that kind of storytelling, we'll just say. I watched this episode right before I interviewed him. That was like a year ago. But I can't say it's my favorite episode. Past Tense. That's the name of the. And it was two-parter in season 3, Past Tense. Right. But if you want to search on Nerdrotic Live, which this live stream will be on, Mark Zickery interview will be there. M Tax Shark for $5. The reason I'm stopping is I'm not sure if okay. Oh, I've already read that one. So thanks again, M Tax Shark and Moons of Madness. And Stephen Kraft, Hail Gary for $10. He says, Hail Gary, I sent you an email on March 30th. It was a link to CNBC story about George R. R. Martin not working on a Broadway play about the Harrenhal tournament where Rhaegar put his moves on Lyanna Stark. Is that what the play is going to be about? They're going to make it based on the Harrenhal tournament. I did hear about that. He's working on it. Oh, he's now working on the Broadway play. He's working on the fucking play too. You're kidding me. I'll go back and catch it. Sorry, I didn't catch it. I was still on vacation when that email said. We're still kind of going through my emails from vacation. Thank you very much. Right. Let's get the donations. Hail, Gary. So when is the escape to the promised land of Texas? Stay moist. Stay moist. Thank you for the $3. 6 months. 6 months. We still have to, there's still some I's that need to be dotted, some T's that need to be crossed. But we got to sell our house. And, Melissa's, we're trying. Well, for one, we're waiting to see how much shit opens, right? So, and then Melissa is probably going to have a satellite location in San Francisco that she can fly into once a month where she can do some of the top tier clients. And that's pretty much what she's going to do. And then help out with the channel a little bit and kind of chill out because she deserved it. She's worked so many years. She was going to retire eventually, but she's not going to restart a salon or anything like that. Not that we know of right now, but we're still in that transitional period, right? And there's a lot of stuff to consider, schools and one thing at a time. So if we find the house, once we find the house, then we can make our next move. If at all possible, could check out my story on Sci-Fi Freak here on YouTube. I hope you enjoy it. And what can I do to get a shout out? Well, Sci-Fi Freak, thank you for the $20. I appreciate it. And you said it's a story here. And it's called Sci-Fi Freak. All right. As with all shout outs, what I could do is I can help you get the people there, but you got to keep them there. And what's the name of your story? I got to make sure I'm at the right one. Sci-Fi Freak. Thank you for the $20, but it's called Sci-Fi Freak, and I think that's the right one. And it looks like he's got a couple of stories up. I would wait until your story is refined before you put it out there. So I would try to make sure you have some refined work before you put it out there, because people can be really brutally honest, unless you're looking for that. But just be careful. Thank you for the $20, but go check out Sci-Fi Freak. And tell me in the chat, what's the name of your story? I just want to double check that real quick. George Moilo for $100 here. Moilo. Here is my support, making up for using YouTube Super Chat. Some more Churchill for the day. It's okay, buddy. Some more Churchill for the day. Some people's idea of free speech is that they are free to say what they like, but if anyone says anything back, that is an outrage. Hail Nerdrotic. Hail to you, George. Thank you. I appreciate it. Space Dinosaur. Oh, I read that one. All right. Polaris sucks for $2. Did you see the John Cleese apology making fun of Hank Azaria's work on Stupid? Yes, I did. Fabio Carrero, thank you for $2. For $1, hashtag release the Picard review. That will be released someday. Cold Hatred, again, thank you for the $1 super chat. Roger H, just trying this Streamlabs donation. Wow, not so hard at all. Thank you, Roger H. I appreciate it. Kevin Kraft for $5. Hail, Gary. Just a small donation to demonstrate my approval for your work. I know you wanted that approval. You know you wanted it. No, everyone knows. Oh, I live for approval. I live for your approval, Stephen. Thank you. Everybody wants a little approval. Come on. Everybody wants a little bit of approval. All right, folks, we got to wrap it up. I got to make some videos. Red Lion for $10 Australian. The only Star Wars news I get. Oh, I read that one. Okay, so yeah. Just making sure. Rupert Patterson. Thank you for the super sticker, Adrian. Hey, Gary, small creator at 870 would love a shout out to get me to 1,000,000. So you're at 870 subscribers. And the name of the channel is comic book steals and deals. It's comic book steals and deals. Let's see if I can get a link going for that. Yeah, 872.
Hey guys,
There you go, man. You're an up and coming creator, by the way. Remember that. Up and coming creator. Where's my chat box? There it is. So here we go. There's a link in there. He's at 872. Hopefully you have some good deals. There you go. Good luck. Again, we can get people there, but you got to keep them there. This leak sounds more like a propaganda piece released by someone inside Bad Reboot close to Jar Jar, making Jar Jar look good and trying to burn any bridges in it. And it really is hard to believe not enough salt available. Yeah, there was one thing I didn't read, Galaxy Express. Thank you for the $20. That basically said that the studio was forcing some stuff on Kathleen Kennedy. And that was the statement. Some stuff got forced on Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy is the studio. She isn't creatively involved in these things. Now, she might have gone to bat for JJ for a couple of things, and Disney, I guess, could trump them. But no. Don't even try to relieve Jar Jar Abrams or Kathleen Kennedy of any responsibility with the Disney trilogy. There is 3 people responsible: Kathleen Kennedy, Jar Jar Abrams, Rian Johnson. Those are your responsible parties. Somebody's gargling Jar Jar's balls and sucking the fart from KK's booty, says Dixon Cunts for $10. Eloquently said, my friend. Eloquently said. Alder BW for $4.99. Hope your vacation was good. Got a new job, so now I have even less reason to pay attention to this crap being made by the entertainment industry. Hopefully that's happening for a lot more people. Beak, I was just joking about Eccleston's Destroy yesterday. I'm sure you were. I didn't think you weren't. Please show as my B5 letter. The sealed envelope included will be important during year 3. Well, I've waited. I'm waiting till I get to year 3. But thank you, Peppermint Oil Capsule. I appreciate it. Sporking News Podcast for $5 says, hail, Gary. Hail to you, Scott. What's up, buddy? 4 hours of JJ could be your thing if you're into BDSM, says Harry Nice Guy for £2. Exactly. Got a super sticker from spoiler alert from Highway Land for $1.99. Thank you very much. Steven Stelling. Some video ideas: slow motion beard combing, ASMR, 60s and 70s movie reviews, and recommendations on Picard season 1 and Picard season 1 review. God, I got to get that review done. Want to see a magic trick? I'm going to make your likes disappear. Mama Susan says projects done poorly for $5. Well done. Gary, JJ Cut doesn't exist. This is PR, my friend. 200-watt studios for $2. Absolutely agree with you. It is some bullshit. That's what I think it is. Mr. Millennium for $5. Remember when right after the Snyder Cut was announced, Paul Feig tried to drum up hype for a 4-hour feed cut of Ghostbusters? What a narcissist, I know, right? Joel Race for €2. Release the JJ Cut here. I'm in a trash can. Exactly. Darius Munchausen, thank you for the $1.49 popcorn. And anti-derivative Jill, thank you for the orange super sticker. Thank you. Mutated Genome. When's a winter delayed? George R. Martin doing a lot of rewrites. Oh, I read that one. Okay, so I'm sure I missed a couple. I tried to catch up as much as I can, but I really got to go now. X-Ray Girl will handle the rest on the Super Chat Square Up. You're going to get a Super Chat Square Up on Friday morning, I believe. Friday morning or Saturday morning. And we are going to get them all taken care of. And also there's going to be some goodies mixed in with the Super Chat Square Ups. Thank you to the Nerdrotics. Thank you to Eric K. Thank you to X-Ray Girl who produced this episode. Thank you to Perry Chan who did the credits. Thank you to all who have super chatted. I appreciate that. And I will see you on Friday Night Tights, 2 p.m. Pacific time. I will be live. I can't remember if it's this Thursday. Hang on, let me double check. I'm going to be on Chrissy Meyer's podcast. Let me just make sure it's this Thursday. Yeah, it's this Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. At least that's when we're recording. I don't know if we're live or not, but yes, I'm going to be I'll be on Chrissy Meyer's podcast tomorrow. So look for that, and I'll follow my Twitter and all that stuff. Oh shit, I was looking for you, Mahler. I don't check my Twitter. I need to give you my number, dude. Fuck. God damn it. Now I'm pissed. Well, you know me. I get on my little rolling, and yeah. So I'm closing things out, Mahler. Shit. Well, hopefully next week you'll be editing and I'll be live at Mahler, I'm going to give you my WhatsApp number because that's actually up. I can see that. I feel terrible. Mahler's like, you can hit me up anytime. What did he say exactly? People can hit me up. I stream twice a week. Lies. You don't even check Twitter when you're streaming. I'm sorry. I just put I suck. Shit. All right. Well, that's the bummer. I would have loved to have talked to Mahler. I need to talk to Mahler about Falcon and Winter Soldier for like 2 hours. That's what I need to talk to him about. So we'll get Mahler on soon. I'll talk to him. Maybe we can get on next week or I don't know, soon. What is this? All right. We're all good. I hate doing these streaming. I can't wait to get back to OBS. My computer will be fixed pretty soon, so I'll be able to get back to OBS. So thanks, everyone. Please enjoy some credits.
Nerdrotic.com.
That song puts you in a mood, doesn't it? It puts you in a mood. It's actually a Nerdrotic. That's for Friday Night Tights, of course. What are you guys still doing here? Mahler, I'm sorry. But I have an idea of something we can do with Mahler very soon that we've been talking about for a long time that I could probably jam through and have it ready. Mahler knows what I'm talking about in a week. I think I could do it in a week. So look for this on Nerdrotic Live. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you are still subscribed. Like and share the video, even though it will disappear. So you might want to check back if you can and see if your like is still there. Supposedly YouTube is working on the problem. And ciao.